I am the living legend of hair loss. I am your hair loss daddy. I am your manly mentor. Now we've got work to do. We've got work to do. And by work, I mean, let's check out in real time the comments I'm receiving on my hair loss videos today. My real time. We're on different timelines. You're watching this in the future. I'm making this in the past. Here we go. This is, hey, Farley Tokley. Been watching my videos for quite a while now. He commented on a video called Age 35, not balding yet, probably won't go bald anytime soon. His intelligent question was this, quote, at what level of Norwood would you say is your point of diminishing returns when you can shave your head and not feel guilty because you still have hairstyle potential? I'm wondering if you and your wife will agree at which Norwood level constitutes permanent shaving, end quote. Very good question. I will show you. With this imperfect chart, because this is not necessarily universal, it helps a lot of men kind of know where they are. I will specifically say, for my black viewers that I have, this is not necessarily going to work for you, and I've got a separate video for you, but specifically, this is the general way it works, but especially also Middle Eastern men, this will not necessarily be your case. I would say, but to answer the question, for me, assuming that I'm somewhere in between these, that's my future, that's not me yet. So let's say this is more really kind of where I am between these two. I'd say for me the point of no return, and I haven't rehearsed this, this is me really figuring this out in real time. I think officially Norwood 5 is where I'd be like, okay, I'm just gonna shave it off for the rest of my life. The thing is, what I don't know is at what point I will be at Norwood 5, knowing that I'm 38 now. So, I mean, I would say Norwood 5 would be like, I don't really feel comfortable having so little hair showing. I'd rather just shave it off at that point. I mean, I still feel that like this is where I'm heading, Norwood 3, but that could be 10 years from now, or I could even be 50. And it's almost like, well, at that point, if I'm 50, that's fairly normal, or even maybe even lucky to still have that much hair at 50. I mean, in my mind, as far as what's normal. So I'm going to officially tell you Norwood 4, not 5. 5 is bald. That's where you've just got that little bit of a land bridge. So 4, not 5, 4. This is my future. This is what I'm probably looking at during my 40s, transition into that. My guess is around 50, I'll probably be at Norwood 4. That's my guess. And at that point, I will think, you know what, I'm not losing out. And I like the way Farley worded that at what point do you no longer have hairstyle potential other than the hairstyle of shaving it off for the most part. And so for me, Norwood 4, that's how I feel about it personally. So yeah, and just to, and you asked about my wife. My wife, she would be different. Her whole thing, she said this in multiple videos, where she said that if you have the horseshoe, the Kevin Malone from The Office, where you're clearly bald on top and you have just around the sides, at that point, just shave it off and be done with it. So really, my wife and I differ on this, because I would say she, according to what she said multiple times, she's more of a Norwood 6 is what she would say, whereas I'm Norwood 4. So, but in reality, I don't know. I mean, we'll just see when I get there. I think we have to consider the age too, you know. And it's what's funny is she doesn't care about hair loss, but she has said before that if I go gray early, that she'd want me to dye my hair. I definitely do not, in case you're new here, I do not dye my hair, and nor do I really have gray hair except for in my beard, which that's unavoidable for, once you hit 35, you're gonna definitely have that unless you dye it. So if you see a man older than 35 who doesn't have gray showing through, he's dyeing his beard. But that's what I'm gonna tell you is my answer. The point of no return for me is Norwood 4, where I'm like, I'd just rather shave it off. I think my wife is more on this territory, but she knows me, and she knows that probably when I get there, if not sooner, I'll shave it off. But again, what age are we talking about? Because I do think that for a 60-year-old man, I mean, a 60-year-old man could easily rock this. That'd be pretty good for a 60-year-old man. So I think the age, just like going gray early. Like my wife, even though, you know, now that we're almost 40, because she and I are the same age, but now that we're almost 40, it's like, well, if I started having gray hair come in now, it's not that big of a deal because of my age at this point. So I think you have to consider, yeah, your age, what's going to look normal. Because see, that's the thing for me about, you know, dyeing your hair. There's one of my favorite newer Saturday Night Live skits. I think it's called Alpha Male. It's about this guy who's in his 50s and he takes this supplement that makes him an alpha male. So he shaves his head and he grows a goatee, but he dyes it black. And like the commentators like, everybody knows you're in your 50s. You've got a black goatee. That's weird. You're obviously dyeing it. So if it's obvious that I'm, you know, altering it, then that's not cool with me. I don't want it to ever be obvious with something like that. That basically that my looks don't match my age in some way. See, for me, I'm not all about trying to maintain youth and look young. I say do the best with what you've got, but I don't want it to ever be obvious that I'm faking something here, you know. And it's funny because since I have got my shorter hairstyle, people actually like this better. And so I think there's definitely something masculine and attractive about embracing your age. And I think people respect that even. And I've made videos before where I really too believe that if you are a younger guy and you're going bald young, if you look at the advantage of it, people have respect for people they think are older than them. And typically females are attracted to men who are older than them because they perceive you to be more intelligent and more experienced in life, etc., more confident, all these things. So I can actually see that from that advantage point. Most men would not, I don't think any man would choose to bald young, but it's a matter of, you have to look at the full picture. You have to, like I've always say, you have to look at how people actually perceive you versus how you think they perceive you, because often you're completely wrong on how you think people perceive you, for better or for worse. So, man, I didn't mean to make this video about all this, but you needed this. I am your manly mentor. I heard a statistic, do the math, you do the research for me. But, you know, I'm going to that men's Bible study at my church, and one of the statistics they said, again, fact check this for me, that supposedly in America right now, in the United States, that 40% of boys now are born into homes where it's a single mother situation. So they don't grow up with a father in the house, period, or it's much later where she would remarry or get married later on. But as far as being born into a home where the parents are married, and for me that's a big deal. Like, I know I joke around all the time about all this, you know, it's just to be funny and all that stuff when I say I'm, you know, the daddy of hair loss, whatever I say. I don't even know what I say. But ultimately, I'm speaking truth on that. This is an epidemic in which men today, young men today, teenage boys, whether teenage boy, whether in your 20s, even in your 30s, there's a good chance that in comparison to me, to have a very positive, present father in my life, a lot of you don't have that. You didn't have that, you don't have that, and it's going to cause you to focus on superficial things like hair loss because no one told you or showed you, hey, here's what it means to be a man, here's what it means to be attractive, here's what it means to be interesting, here's what it means to be funny, here's what it means to have a skill, all of these things. Instead, all you know is, especially what you see on social media or watching porn, which I strongly advise not to because it psychologically rewires you. It's not a good thing. Forget about the religious part of it. Psychologically, it destroys you. You have, so many of you haven't been exposed to what I've just been saying, and that's important stuff. So while I joke around a lot, ultimately, the real passion here for me is to actually help so many of you who don't have that positive role model. And I think by default, that's why a lot of you have zero hair loss, but you still keep watching my videos anyway because you need a reminder of these things. I appreciate you watching. If you want to leave a comment, it's up to you. You have free will right here.